Hi, welcome to another tutorial video where we teach you how to code with your phone. Welcome to the channel. So this channel is dedicated to helping newbies that are struggling to code with laptops. And if you have a phone and you have data, don't worry. This is what we'll do on the channel. We'll help you to code with your phone. Don't forget to don't forget to like the page and subscribe as well. All right, so in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to build a simple to-do list with arrays. All right, so let's look at how how it looks like. All right, so let's enter a to-do. Eat dinner. It shows read, shopping. All right, so we'll definitely look at how we can code this with JavaScript using array methods. So we use an array method to code this, how we can enter a simple to do. All right, so let's go straight to our code. All right, I need to remove this now so we can write this from the beginning. All right. Okay, so this is the HTML file. Don't forget, this is the SPCK editor and it has been linked already. Okay, so let's go straight to the body of our HTML file here. H1, I just call it a to-do list. So I just put a to-do list there. That's a to-do list. Then this is the inputs. You put in an input and you put in a placeholder. The placeholder is like an inline text that tells the reader, it gives an information to the person using the particular application. So this is the inputs. The input has a class of inputs and a placeholder of enter to do. Then we have a button here. This is a button. This button has a class of add button. Then we have a paragraph where we can input the values or letters or words we enter into the array we want it to show in the body of the web page. So this is the paragraph, and there is the CSS file. We go to see a to-do list. All right, so now it's not functional. Nothing will work because there's no JavaScript. All right, so let's go straight into a JavaScript right now. All right, so let's look into our JavaScript. We want a situation where we can add a word in the to-do list and it will show on the web page. And like I said, we're using array to solve this simple challenge. All right, so I think what we should do, number one, we should write down the algorithm, what we need to do first. All right, so let's just write this down. When we click the add button, we want the following to happen. Let's go back to app. This is the add button. This is the input, and this is the add button. So we want to write a function, or want to write a program that helps us run this code whenever we press add button. Alright, and when we click add button, what should happen? We want this to generate a function that will, number one, console or show the imputed values. So what we want this app to do, first step, whenever we press add button, it should take whatever is included here and show it on this webpage. So first things first, we need to get the values. We need to get elements. For example, we need to get the elements of this add button and add an event listener to it. So first thing first we need to do, we come here and write a variable cons add button elements. Add a button element. Then the add button elements will give us document dot query selector. Then let's go back to our HTML and look at the class. Look at the class. The class of add button is add button. So let's go back to JavaScript and put add button btn. Exactly. So we now have the elements. We'll be able to create this variable add button elements that will help us get the elements of the button from the web page, so we can work with it in JavaScript. Don't forget, query selector will help us get an element from the HTML or from the web page. So let's go back to our code. What we need to do now is add an event listener. An event listener will help us click and run a function. So let's add an event listener to our add button element. So that's what we need to do now. So we'll come down here and say, all right, so let me just write this clearly so that we will understand very, very well. Step 1 in achieving this, step 1 is get the add button element from the web page using document using query selector. Document.query selector. Right, so that's the first step. Then step number 2, we need to add an event listener to our add button elements. All right, so let's do that now. So this is what we do. We'll now let's look at the variable add event elements. Add button element dot add event listener, so we can click on it. So event listener has different uh, ways of actualizing it, but in this case we'll use the click option. So you bring and put in a click so that we can click on the button. Please, when I click on the button, run a function for me, and the function I want to run is add button function or add function. All right, so this is the add function. Then I can bring the function here, bring the function, can write the add function. Exactly. So this is the function. What do I do next? Let's check if the add button is working. So let's write console.log console.log. Let's see if it's working. Console.log working. So let's go to our web page or to our app. Let's press add. Console.log is not defined. All right, we didn't spell console very well. Let's spell console very well. Exactly. All right, so let's go back to our web page, add button, and you can see working. All right, so that has been actualized. What should we do now? Let's go back to our algorithm. Show the input values. All right, let's go back to our algorithm. I think the first one should be run a function. Then if it runs a function, we'll press the add button, then show the imputed values. So how do we actualize that? Let's go back to our HTML and let's look at the input value. All right, so if we look at the input value, it has a class of inputs. So let's get the elements from the web page using query selector. So come back, I'll do const inputs, input element equal to document dot query selector. Just give me the dots. Let's go back to our HTML and what class? Input, and the class is input. And now we're able to get the input elements from the web page. Fine. So what we need to do now, let's see if it's working. Let's try to console.log inputs, and don't forget, when you get your input elements from the web page, you need to add a value, because without the value you cannot, it will not work, because we need to also display the values we are imputing inside these inputs. So for example, let's put a market add, and yes, it works, console.log market. All right, so that step has been actualized, but we can still put this input into a variable so we can use it later. So we say const input is equal to input element dot value, the same thing. All right, so that has been done. So let's go back to our algorithm. What do we do again? All right, so what we need to do again, run a function, show the imputed values in a console. Then now we need to add these imputed values inside an array. Add the imputed value inside an array. All right, so for us to add this into an array, don't forget an array is a type of value. We can add different values inside an array and it will hold it for us. All right, so let's do that now. We'll come down here and we'll put a variable. We'll use the let so we can reassign it. Let keyword so it can be reassigned. Let's use let to do array equal to an empty array. Yes, let it be empty so we can add multiple values into it. What do we do next? Let's add this into an array. All right, so there's a method in array that we can use to add values, which is called the push method. All right, so let's do that now. To do array dot push, so we are trying to push the imputed values inside the array. So let's put the input now, and don't forget the input is equal to our input element dot value, which we got from the web page as well. So let's look at how things are right now. Let's go back to our application. All right, we need to console.log the to do array, so we can say it console.log to do array. All right, so let's check if it will work. Let's add the first one we need to add now, say shop. Let's add. Yep, it worked. Then add the shop. Let's add the market. The array is added as well to the array. Let's also add school to the array. You can see it's working. Shop, market, school, they've all been added to the array. All right, now let's go back to our algorithm. Let's see what we have to add again. All right, so let's go back to our algorithm. This time around, we want to display the array on the web page. Alright, so we need to do that now. If you come to your HTML, let's check in our HTML file. We have a paragraph here that will display the array, but we need to get the elements from the web page using query selector. So we'll come back here as a const input, const paragraph elements should be equal to document dot query selector, query selector. There should be a dot paragraph. Let's put a para there. Alright, so we now have the paragraph. So here we can now come back to a function. Then what do we want? We want our paragraph to show or display all the values we entered. So there we can now say paragraph element dot, because we are now formatting our inner HTML. We want it to be equal to HTML, para.html. I want it to be equal to our to-do array. So let's see if that will work. Alright, so let's type market. It worked. You can see markets on our web page. School, let's type school. You can see it's added to the array. Shop, you can see as well, is added to the array. You have market, school, shop. But we can also change the color of a paragraph in the web page or on the web page. So change color of paragraph. Alright, so we need to change the color. So we need to come down here, and this time around we can say para.el.display.color. we are now accessing the CSS file, should be equal to red. Should be equal to red. Let's check if that will work. Let's go again, market, and they said setting on define, not display. Alright, so let's clear that out. Let's clear this out and post tie. Fantastic. So this should work. So you see market, it show market in red. Say church, it show church in red. Alright, so what do we want again? Now, if you observed, if you're typing, for example, markets, and you want to type, say, shop, it means we need to clear market off before we type shop. But what we want to do now, we want a situation where automatically we don't need to clear these inputs. Automatically we want this to clear on its own. So what do we need to do again? We come here and put in clear input space. Clear input space. All right, so let's come back now in our code. So we need to clear it. So what we need to do, we need to bring back our input element dot value. It should be equal to an empty string. All right, if it's equal to an empty string, it will definitely automatically clear on its own. So right, so let's go again. We have the market here. It's off. You can see we don't need to clear it again. We go again. We put in cook. Again, we put in cook. We put in run, for example, and you can say it. All right, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.